Communities of Care started as a grant through the Women and Gender Equality Canada, went to the Status of Women in Nova Scotia, the Elizabeth Fry Society of Mainland Nova Scotia, the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center, MLSN, and ABSW. And these 4 organizations worked collaboratively with the Status of Women to offer supports and programs for survivors of violence from Indigenous and African Nova Scotian communities who were not accessing mainstream, quite frankly, white-oriented victim services supportive programming. And so what that looks like on the ground is collaborative programs between these organizations where we can offer them together.
We provide justice support services to any individual that identifies as Indigenous in Nova Scotia, regardless of tribe or status card, whether they're on reserve or off reserve. We want to be able to provide a holistic service to our clients regardless of which end of the system they're coming through, to be able to say that they were supported in a culturally relevant and meaningful way. We want to make sure that our people have the same rights and opportunities as any other Canadian going through the system.
So Mi'kmaq Legal Support Network has a victim support services program that we provide throughout the province of Nova Scotia, providing court support services for Indigenous and Mi'kmaq victims of violence to increase participation and understanding of the criminal justice system.
Community can make referrals wherever there is an incident that they are looking to resolve. So the police can then refer at a pre-charge level or as soon as an incident has happened, and they can refer it to us. They can also refer victims immediately following an incident.
We'll also assist with victim impact statement writing, guide them through the court process, answer any questions that they may have, and we don't provide legal advice, but we do our best to connect clients to the appropriate services that they're seeking.
We want the community outside to understand why, what historical impact there is that led us to the position that we're at now, how losing our language, how losing opportunities for ceremony, how losing our rights have affected our people, how we became disempowered through history. We're trying to bring those voices back, and in a way that's not confrontational, but that's informative.
Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center is, 50 years old, and we are Indigenous led and we are Indigenous focused, and we service urban Indigenous peoples so that you can be First Nations, Inuit, Métis. We have community members that are from across Canada. We like to see anybody who is urban Indigenous, if they're working, living, and playing in the urban context, even if you're visiting the city, you're more than welcome to come in. We're actually seeing more and more Indigenous people who just want to connect with their cultural pieces and the language and traditions versus somebody who's in a trauma. We even have an Inuit-specific program because the Inuit population continues to grow. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. You're going to find someone to connect with here. I get to see direct impacts which make a difference, and I get to see people that are struggling on the streets to all of a sudden have housing. They have total wraparound supports where you wouldn't get that anyplace else. And that's the whole focus and model of a friendship center, is those complete wraparound supports. The one piece I want people to really understand about urban Indigenous peoples is we're often referred to as a drain on society, and we're absolutely not a drain on society. We provide cultural enhancement, enrichment. We provide safe spaces. We have beautiful people in our community, good people who work hard and who are making a difference.
The Elizabeth Fry Society works for and with and on behalf of criminalized women, girls, and gender diverse folks in Canada. We have 3 core mandate areas. We offer programming, comprehensive programming in a range of areas, but mostly around personal development. We also offer a range of housing options, from full-service housing that is 24/7 staffed to second stage apartment housing with drop-in staff. And one of the primary areas that Elizabeth Fry Societies offer that is quite unique in relation to service provision across Canada is advocacy and legal support. We provide advocacy for those who are incarcerated in the prisons and jails in this country. We do legal support in the area of prison law, and we also work with and on behalf of survivors of violence and offer legal and advocacy services in that area. Eve Fry has a nonprofit law firm called Path Legal that works for and with prisoners, so folks who are incarcerated, to ensure that their liberty rights are safe and secure. They come to us from almost any way you could possibly imagine. Some folks are referred from family, community, some folks self-refer, but we reach a lot of our clients because we spend time in the prisons and jails in this country, and Elizabeth Fry Mainland, we are in the prisons and jails in the Atlantic region. Our philosophy is restorative in nature, so we take a relational and restorative approach to justice, which means that the best way to bring about systemic change is actually through collaboration. It is actually through working with government, with the courts, with the police to bring about changes within our system.
The association has been around for more than 40 years, and it has a mandate to try to do what it can to help African Nova Scotians in the realm of providing services and supports. That could look like a family support system whereby they're offering counseling to families around conflict. They could be offering to families some kind of counseling for their children, or it could be putting on various types of workshops as it relates to health and wellness for community development. Over the years, the organization has developed a number of projects where they've identified anti-racism strategies and how to combat that. So we would get a call, and it may be from an individual that's needing help because they're struggling with what to do with their job placement. They're not quite sure whether or not they're experiencing some anxiety or some frustration or some anger, and they're needing to have somebody to talk through that. It may be the beginnings of an early onset of a mental health trauma, and so sometimes a social worker may be able to have that conversation with that individual to get them to understand what are they experiencing. What has been established have been what we would call community coordinators. So the coordinator, for example, would bring in somebody who's an artist that knows how to do painting. We've been able to take those kinds of entry points into having the community come out to talk about who they are and what they're all about as a way to ensure that these topics are not that heavy and ones that people shy away from. It's allowing us to determine what are the kinds of ways that we could invite people in to have a conversation and not have it be threatening or one that they don't want to talk about.